You're enjoying Racing World. It's brought to you by Perspective Group. It's your global motorsport podcast show brought to you in conjunction with Race Control Magazine.
The Thermal $1 million challenge. Was it good? Was it bad? Let's see. Let's talk about it today on Racing World. So in this past week, INDYCAR did something very different. They did a non-championship points race. Now, there was many reasons why this happened. One, obviously the gap in the calendar because of no Texas this year. Whole different story. We've talked about that before, so let's just leave that to one side. The bottom line fact is they went to an exclusive club near Palm Springs in California for a $1 million challenge. Now, it wasn't quite $1 million in the end. It was kind of a prize pull of just over $1 million, so the winner didn't take that, but anyway, it's a play on words. The ultimate thing was it was a non-championship race. Was it good? Was it bad? There's mixed feelings over it. I have mixed feelings on it. And there was a lot of topic early on about what it would do to championship scenarios and all sorts of things. And one of the concerns that I know Scott Dixon had was what it did to the condition of your car and engine life and everything. So I had the chance before the event to catch up with the head of INDYCAR in terms of that side of the rules and everything, Jay Fry, and asked him exactly that question.
David Turner, Racing World, go ahead.
Thanks very much, Dave. Well, first of all, congratulations to everyone on putting this event together. It's nice to see something happening outside of the box. I think INDYCAR need to be congratulated on that. And Townsend, I love your phrase. It's very similar to one we have in New Zealand about the can-nots rather than the can-do. So it's fantastic. Jay, this is for you. I don't fully understand this, but you'll be able to help me out here. What happens to things like engine life for the teams in terms of the series? Does it impact them later on by running at a non-championship event?
No. So it's accounted for in the 2,500. They get 4 engines at 2,500 miles apiece. So this is accounted for within the full season. So it will not get them out of their allotted amount of miles.
So it won't effectively then doesn't impact on the championship scenarios at all in that sense, does it?
No, sir. No.
Oh, that's awesome. That makes the scenario of racing at thermal even more enticing for the teams then, doesn't it?
Yes, sir.
That's great. Thanks very much for that. I really look forward to seeing this. I think Marcus Armstrong will be up there. There'll be no pressure on him. His father just won the New Zealand GT Series in the weekend, so Marcus can go for the big money on in the US this weekend as well. So all the very best to all of you. Congratulations.
Thank you. David, I'm shocked you chose a Kiwi to win. Love that. Hope you're doing well.
Well, I think that enlightened me a little bit. Basically, it meant that the mileage for the team's engine still continued through this event, so they weren't hampered by running at this event or the test. It was all part of the allocated mileage for the season. So in that sense, that's good on you, INDYCAR, and it certainly answered a question for me, so I was quite satisfied with that answer at the end of the day. Then we got on to the whole let's go practice for a few days, and that was a good thing. I think that the teams enjoyed having an open test after that first race in St. Pete. Again, pros and cons for that. Would it have been better before the season started? Well, in this case, this year, it wasn't going to happen because this is where this event got placed. And I think for many teams, it was a good way to get back into the swing of things and think about the next event, which is, of course, Long Beach Grand Prix in just a couple of weeks' time. I had the chance after test days to be able to catch up with Kiwi Scott McLaughlin, who'd also been practicing his golf. So we had a good chat about that as well.
Got time for one more. David Turner, do you have a golf question for Scott?
Yeah, is he going to go to Live or is he going to go to the PGA?
No, I'm a PGA guy.
Okay, well, we've cleared that up. Well, since we're talking to you now, just looking at this, how valuable is it to you as an organization, so Team Penske, to have an open test session like this and a race that doesn't pay for points or anything after you've already had St. Pete this year? So you've got into the season and started to gel back together again as a team, but there's a lot that you can take from a weekend like this, isn't there?
Yeah, I think for qualifying at St. Pete, I felt a little bit underdone because I lost basically half the test day before the start of the season just with a problem. So I sort of just felt a little bit out of cadence a little bit with everything. And this is important in the next couple of days to just sort of get as much, running for me. That's me personally as a team. I think it's just nice to get some track time, as I said before, and learn a bit more about the car and what to expect for this weekend. But yeah, it's just for me, just get some reps going and yeah, work the neck a little bit, which has been nice.
Well, it's certainly going to be a great event, and it does, we all know the things around why it's filling a hole and that sort of stuff, but it keeps INDYCAR very much on the radar, and this will be a chance to expose it even more to the West Coast side of the country as well.
Yeah, absolutely. My mum and dad will be tuning in, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's much easier for us time zone wise. So,
yeah.
Well, all the very best for the weekend for all three of you. I look forward to seeing how this plays itself out and who makes the feature, as they say, very much a Speedway style. And we'll see you all again in a few weeks' time as well.
Thanks, Dave.
Onwards then to the format for the event. Now, it was kind of a bit confusing, but at the end of the day, the field was marble drawn by the owners of the Thermal Club and various people there, and each driver then went into a group, which was equally divided amongst the 27 cars. Then they ran effectively in a session, and fastest 6 went through to the final. So a bit like Speedway rules, really. It was like a B main, if you like, heading towards a feature. Of notable Kiwis that didn't go through was obviously Scott Dixon, and then of course Will Power didn't go through either. So there were some names missing, and there were some names that went through. But qualifying at the end of the day saw more great performance from the Meyershank racing car of Felix Rosenquist, and we're starting to really see him gel with the team. And of course, Alex Plough was up there as well.
Thanks very much, Dave. 2 questions here. One for both you guys. Just now that we've had these days of testing at the circuit as well as what you've done today, has the track actually formed a groove and rubbered up, or is it still very abrasive like it was when you first arrived?
No, I think it's rubbering. I mean, we've been doing a lot of running here, and it seems like the track takes it quite well. Like it builds a little, like it's a bit like in the GP, it rubbers in and then it kind of stays. And then when the sand comes in, it resets a little bit. So I think right now it's probably reached, its peak more or less. But no, it's very typical, I think, road course.
And then
yeah, I would agree. I think it got rubbered from after session 1, but it stays the same.
Okay. And then Felix, just one for you. With the return to running with a Honda after a few years with Chevy, are you noticing any difference? Is that helping in the MSR equation, or is it just one of those things?
It's such small differences, I think, the battle between Honda and Chevy is really interesting to follow. And I've been, I've been a Honda, then Chevy, and now back to Honda. And it's pretty much what I remember it being. It's very good drivability, and I think that's probably helped me a little bit. But overall, you're just, trading blows most of the time when you come to a different track. And, sometimes one of the manufacturers bring a new package or a new update, and they keep pushing each other, which is really cool. And it's cool that we still gaining performance out of these engines so far in on their lifespan. So but yeah, overall it's very, very, very similar.
Oh, thank you both. It'll be a very interesting day tomorrow, to say the least. And Alex, you might need that bumper, or both of you might need that bumper with the pack behind you. So we look forward to seeing it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Those heat races also providing plenty of drama in terms of Dixon and Grosjean getting it together. Now, the thing about this event is that it was always going to be gloves off type racing. Dixon was checked up a little bit by Colton Herter going into that first turn. He then hit Grosjean. Grosjean's got an opinion on it. Obviously, Dixon would probably have an opinion on it. But at the end of the day, that's the nature of the game. It wouldn't have mattered whether it was a championship race or a non-championship race. This is racing, and that's how it works, plain and simple. And at the end of the day, it just happens. But we ended up going then with 12 cars that went through to 2 10-minute or 10-lap races with a fuel stop in the middle, keeping the tyres that you started with on for the duration of the event. So onwards to the main event, or the feature, whatever you want to call it, but it was the final showdown over those 2 legs of 10-lap races with the gap for fuel in the middle. Now, there was various strategies you could play on this one. Obviously, if you're at the front, you go hard, but within reason, because you've got to conserve your tyres. And if you're at the back, you'd play maybe a slightly different strategy. One person who did that was Colton Herter, who started near the end of the pack for that first part of this race. Now, he drove around the track some 30 seconds a lap slower than everyone else, conserving tyres. Now, under normal circumstances, INDYCAR would probably wave him off. They certainly would at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for being too slow. This event, however, he could just chug on around and do what he wanted and conserve tyres. Come the second heat, Colton was on the charge and got as high as 4th when ultimately that's where he finished. Now, is that right? Is that wrong? That's within the spirit of how this race was set up. Was it a showcase? No, it wasn't. Was it a good piece of strategy? Probably was. Does it make good TV? No, it doesn't. Does it make a good spectacle? Questionable. Was it smart? Yes, it was. So very mixed opinion on that. I don't think really in some ways it's in the spirit of racing, but then again, there was nothing in the rules to say that you couldn't do it. And this is how this race played itself out. And people like that did that. Let's go slow in the first phase of the race, save tyres, go hard in the second part. And of course that applied to your push to pass as well. Now, at the end of the day, the guys that were out front did exactly what they'd been doing all weekend, and McLaughlin, Rosenquist and Alex Palau drove fine races, and they deserved to finish where they did, which was 1, 2, 3. And the other standout feature for the weekend, and had been strong during the test session, was Kiwi Marcus Armstrong. He was right up there amongst it all the time. Had a few things not quite go his way, but ultimately Marcus is showing a lot more form in 2024 than what we saw in 2023, and I think that bodes well. And we must remember that this championship is only 1 round old, and we're heading to Long Beach, and I think he could do pretty well there, and I would expect to see him on the podium in the next few races. Certainly by the time they get to Barber, that's going to be a track that suits him. He's driven there before, he's driven a lot of these tracks before now, and I think that Marcus is gelling very well at Ganassi Racing this year, and we should see some strong things. Bottom line fact, however, I got to talk to McLaughlin after the race, and of course he was 350 grand US better off.
Look, it's all started, I think, with my heat race. I think I had a really good start. I was lucky not to get caught up in the kerfuffle with Grosjean and him going backwards. I could see it in my mirror, and it was me and Felix both went wide. It'd be interesting to get his thoughts on it, because I saw him, and I'm sure he did, and I was like, oh no, this is not going to be good. And then obviously hit Renus behind us, but so got away with that. Settled into a rhythm. Felt like we had a really good speed in the heat race, and then in the final race, Alex was just we were pretty conservative, looking after our tires at the start there, just being smart for the knowing that there's guys that were going crazily slow, almost too slow, I feel like, from a racing perspective. But anyway, looking after their tires, and then the start of the race, of race 2 or half race distance, I sort of tried to have a little go at Alex, but ultimately he was just a little bit faster with that clean air. It was always going to be clean air was going to be king this weekend. So I settled in and just tried to sort of maximize what I had, and that was second today. So yeah, proud. It was a solid week. Testing was great, and I played a lot of golf, and I've gone away 350 grand richer. So that's amazing. It's a great week. I'm very happy.
And then there was a little bit more of the same in the fact that Alex Palau won the race. I don't think it's quite like a Verstappen type dominance that we're seeing in Red Bull, which quite frankly has become pretty boring. This was more a case of just being smart. Alex was on the case, and it was outside of a championship race. Will we see the dominance from Palau that we saw last year? I don't think so. I don't think you can carry that in INDYCAR over multiple years. It's just not possible with the way this racing series runs and the car's been so equal. If we do, then the rest of the field need to be very, very ashamed of themselves, that's for sure. But anyway, had the chance to catch up with Alex as well.
No, heat one, my heat race, I pushed to the max to see what the limit was, and then I saw that was not the way to do a 20 lap stint. So so I could see what the car balance was to try and save a bit of tires. But then during the first 10 laps of the main race, everybody was saving. And I saw that everybody kept going slower, so I was like, all right, I'll do the same game, and we're actually maintaining tires. But then once we pitted and we put it a lot of fuel, normally the tires go down and the fuel goes down as well. So it kind of balances and it's easy to manage. But even though we did 10 laps, not pushing too hard, we added fuel to the max. Everybody did. And then the car was super heavy, it was rolling and was just killing the rear tires a lot. So it was tough to adapt to the completely different car.
So there we have it. That was the first ever thermal event for the $1 million challenge, as it was referred to. It screened obviously in the US on primetime NBC, or during the afternoon on NBC, and had good following across the week. The test days had coverage on Peacock. So for a viewership point of view, it did very well. Be interesting to know the numbers when they come out. Was it a spectacle and entertainment? I feel a little flat. I don't think that we were rewarded with that. I give INDYCAR kudos for trying something. I just think that it needs quite a lot more refinement. That, of course, isn't a personal opinion, and I'm sure there are plenty of people that would disagree with me on that one, but I think that there's room for improvement there. Was it a good fix in the calendar? Yeah, sure was. Absolutely no doubt about that. Otherwise, it would have been a very long gap between St. Pete and Long Beach, which is now just a couple of weeks away. So all in all, I think I'm going to give thermal a 50%. I'm going to sit on the fence and wait and see just what INDYCAR come out with next in terms of developing that format or whatever they choose to do. And now we look forward to the rest of the season. Obviously Long Beach, Barber, Indy Grand Prix, and then of course the 108th running of the Indy 500 presented by Gamebridge. And boy oh boy, that's looking like a 35 or 36 car entry list now. There's a lot of rumours around at the moment that Dale Coyne will put in a late entry for Catherine Legg. So it'd be good to see her back there again after her run with Rahul Letterman last year. I think that she could easily qualify the car. The ones that will miss out, they'll be very interesting. As we know, there'll always be a surprise. So I think that the 108th edition of the 500 will be just as good as the 107 that have been before it. And from then on in, the championship really kicks in. You've got to start earning your points, and you've got to earn them consistently. So will this be the chance for Dixon to make it 7 times? Will we see Palau make 3 times, or will we see new winners? I'm sure we're going to see a bit of both. So it will be just a great spectacle, and INDYCAR delivers in that May through to August period. And of course it's got to fit around the Olympics this year as well to fit in with NBC's scheduling. So there'll be a few variations in the timetable, and then the run of ovals at the end, including Nashville, to round out the season. Speaking of ovals, the season wrapped up at Western Springs just a couple of weeks ago. The great race that they've had there, the SprintCar event for 50 laps for sprint cars with a fuel stop in the middle. So we're starting to sound like INDYCAR here. And boy oh boy, it was a great spectacle. It was a pleasure for me to be there personally with my production company and to direct the race as well. Had a great fun being back in the director's seat, that's for sure. Enjoyed the coverage. Thank you to the many people that subscribed to the Western Springs YouTube channel and complimented us on the coverage. I appreciate that. It was great to be back in that chair again. And here's just a little snippet from the boys that helped put the production together to show you what it was like.
It's Lewis in the wild. Just sitting there. Brown with plenty of the experienced drivers going on to doing great.
Well, there you go. That's very much an iconic speedway in New Zealand, and one that has long heritage in this country, and long may it live. Let's just hope. And all credit to John McCullum and the team for pulling off what was a 4-race meeting season, but back for a full season next year and the next summer here in New Zealand. And it'd be great to see what they've got in line. And I think the New Zealand midget champs are up for grabs at Western Spring. Hopefully we get T-Mez back down here. It was great to catch up with him while he was here. Really cool guy. So some good things happening at the Springs. And talking of good things, wasn't it good to see Carlos Sainz take out the Australian Grand Prix? By the time you see this, we're just days away again from the Japanese Grand Prix, and will Sainz continue that role with Ferrari? Will Leclerc be there? Will Verstappen and Perez struggle on Red Bull? Kind of hope so, just to spice the championship up. And what are we really seeing at Mercedes? We're seeing some pretty bad things right now, and I think Toto's got to be a little bit concerned about what's going on there. McLaren rising again, so there's strength there. So the Formula One Championship, I think when we get to Japan and China, we're going to see some interesting developments in terms of how the season will start to play itself out. So that's really good. Great comeback from Sainz. Anyway, great little show for you this week. More from Long Beach next week. Thanks again for watching Racing World. Don't forget to share, like and subscribe. It does mean a lot to us, and we look forward to seeing you again, or the ability for you to listen as a podcast here on Racing World.